Hello, brothers and sisters. So, yesterday, one of the biggest arsenals of Russian missiles was attacked by the Ukrainians. Some did say that it was a drone that flew to that direction and hit the depot. Others say that it was actually an unknown kind of missile used by Ukraine. The explosion is huge. The magnitude is huge. We did share the video and you'll be able to see the cloud, the mushroom cloud that comes out of that place. Now, the Russians apparently, they were storing all kinds of missiles there. There are rumors that say that these were Iranian missiles, North Korean missiles or whatever. Anyways, this was close to the front line and this was close to another country's border. Apparently, some individuals blame Latvia for this. Why? Because apparently they did check the trajectory of that missile or drone or wherever that was, and it seems like it came from this country. Some people say that Latvia did authorize Ukrainians to launch an attack from the territory into Russian territory. They did check for all the locations within Ukraine where this drone or missile could have come from, and they couldn't find any trace of it, but they found a trace from one launch from this territory. So now, obviously, this is a big loss for the Russians because this is material that they need to continue with the war, and I guess the intention of the Ukrainians was to slow down the Russians because you're taking out all these Excalibur missiles and missiles they need to attack the front. However, there's a problem here, which is the fact that it was launched. Well, I call it a fact, but it could not be. But it was launched apparently from the territory of Latvia. So many people are asking themselves, what's going to happen now? Are the Russians going to retaliate against Latvia? Are they going to call the Latvian ambassador to have a meeting with him so he can explain exactly what happened? Because if this actually happened, and if it's true, Latvia will be it will have direct involvement in the conflict in Ukraine. And as Russian president recently said, after the European countries, Western countries in general, were thinking about allowing Ukraine, mainly the United Kingdom and the United States, they were thinking about allowing Ukraine to use the long-range missiles to strike deep into Russian territory, which is something that happened today. Now, after that, the president of Russia came out publicly saying, okay, it's fine if you guys do this. That's gonna mean it means that the Western countries or NATO in general, they're going to be directly involved in the conflict in Ukraine. Therefore, Russia is going to respond accordingly, which means Russia is going to go to war against these countries, right? Now, going to war or being in a state of war doesn't necessarily mean that Russia is going to be attacking the territory of these countries. The Russians did mention before that they are willing to provide long-range missiles or other kind of weaponry to the enemies of the Western countries. Very recently, actually, we saw an attack from Yemen with a hypersonic missile. So we got the Ansarullah movement using a hypersonic missile to strike inside Israel. The Israeli defenses were unable to target this missile. They were able to detect it, but they could not stop it. And it hit the target. According to the Israelis, there was no damage done by that missile. But there's something important here, which is the fact that Yemen has hypersonic missiles provided by who? And now we have the Russians saying that if the Europeans do that, they allow Ukraine to use long-range missiles to attack deep into Russian territory, they will provide all kind of weaponry to the enemies. And actually, Yemen is an enemy of the West because it's implementing a blockade in the Red Sea. Okay? And not only that, they have been attacking Israel with drones and other kind of missiles for some time now. But this last one, it was a threat to Israel. Great. So if they do that, imagine the Russians provided that missiles to the Yemeni fighters, which most probably they didn't. But it could also mean that they can provide that to other countries that are closer to Israel. And Israel is a very important, is an important interest for the Western countries. So let's go back to Latvia. So if this actually happened, and Latvia was involved in this attack, we need to think what the Russians are going to do. This was a big loss. That depot, which was close to the border for some reason, the Russians were storing this out in the air and it exploded. Everything exploded. We don't know if this is a red line or what the response is going to be from the Russians. But there are some people already speculating that the Russians, they're going to basically use some kind of dirty nuclear bomb in Ukraine, or they're even going to retaliate with a large barrage of missiles, but no attacking military targets, but rather just attacking everywhere. Some people think that this is the ultimate red line that the Ukrainians could have crossed. Others think that this is the ultimate red line that Putin put the other day in front of the Western countries, because the missile they use to target this facility most probably was a long-range missile provided by the West. The questions are, was Ukraine able to get the coordinates for this location and launch that missile? Obviously no. So there is some direct or indirect participation from Western countries. And here we go, Western countries getting involved in the targeting of Russian assets inside Russian territory. And this is the red line Putin was talking about. So we're going to see what's going to happen next, because this is serious. And some people expect really serious consequences coming from Russia. Others think that, well, Russia has put many red lines throughout the last two and a half years. So they're not going to do anything. Putin is not going to do anything after this strike. In fact, NATO secretary came out saying that Ukraine can use long-range weapons inside Russia because just like before, all the red lines put by Russia, they have been violated and Russia has done anything. So you're going to see if this is the final red line, or if the Russians, they're going to think twice, even 3 times about what the reaction is going to be. Because the Russians need to be also careful not to completely engage in a full-out war with all the Western countries. That's why every time Ukraine crosses a red line, Russia waits and thinks of the consequences of their own attack against Western countries. But let's make this clear. If they reach a point where they are put in a corner and they have no other option but to attack the heart of Ukraine, they'll be forced to do it. What kind of weapons they're going to use, we don't know. Russia has a very large arsenal and they haven't even used half of what they got. So, anyways, we're sharing everything on Telegram. If you want to see the video, please go on Telegram and watch it. And as always, we'll continue informing you.